So a Python notebook is one where you can develop the code in a modular fashion. Python is a scripting language, so every line of code that you write in Python is a command in itself. So one chunk of code you can write and you can execute it. Its result is going to be taken into the next block. So if you are developing an algorithm or if you are trying to implement certain things, you can write it in block by block. Okay. Now, what we'll be doing today is we'll be learning about the functions in Python. Okay. For so in Python, if you want to create a function, it should start with a keyword by name def. Let's create a simple function by name hello. Okay. The function should take certain arguments. Say for example, some string st. As usual with colon, let's print st. So a Python generally returns a value. Even if you do not write anything, the function is going to return null. Okay, so Python function will always return. Now with the notebook, you can run the cells. Because there is no output, it's going to show that the cell is completed successfully. You can add one more block and you can now write your next part of code. How to call the function? So let me say, you can just call the function just by giving function name and in parenthesis some message. So if you now execute this cell, it's going to show hello world. Why? Because this hello world is going to we are calling hello function where this string is gone and this is printing hello world. Now let us make some changes in this. Okay, let's say st is equal to st plus some message like, let's say welcome, and if you run all the cells by clicking run cells, hello world, welcome. This is a very simple function. Let's now define a function to do some mathematical operation. Let's say add, let's pass two variable a and b and print the result of addition of 0 and 1 is equal to 2 dot format a comma b comma c, where c is equal to a plus b. Okay, so instead of hello, let us now add 20 comma 30. So again you can just call run all in order to run all the cells. The result of addition of 20 and 20 is 40. Let us give 20 and 30, cell, run all. The addition of result of 20 and 30 is 50. Okay, now many number of times we do not want the print statement to be in the function. We want the function to do certain operation and get the result back. So what we can do is we can actually write the result here. For that, it needs to return the value of c. So we can simply say return c. Here you can take any variable, let's say C1 or C, whatever you wish, and your value will be present in that specific variable. So you are passing 20 and 30 as parameter to the function. Function is adding them and returning their value. That value you are catching in a variable by name C1 and you are printing the value. If we say cell and run all, let's define the values. A is equal to 20, B is equal to, let's say, 30, and instead of 20 and 30, let's pass the variable A comma B. The result of addition of 20 and 30 is 50. So what difference we did? What we did was we just returned the result from a function which we caught in the calling part, and then we printed that value. Now, one of the best thing about Python is that it can also return multiple results. For example, A is the result of addition, S is equal to A minus B is the result of subtraction, D is equal to A divided by B is the result of division, and M is equal to A into B is multiplication. Now you can return multiple variable in this fashion: A comma S comma D comma M. You can create a list and return multiple variables. Here also A comma S comma D comma M. You can give the same name or you can change the name like A1, S1, D1, whatever. Okay, so let's change the value. A is equal to 10 and A is equal to 20, B is equal to 10. Now let's display this value. The result of addition, let's take it in A1 because already A and B is there. So same variable, if we take A's value, is going to be bypassed. So the result of addition of A and B is A1, which means that A and B value over here is passed. We have calculated the addition which is written and we are taking it in A1 variable. The result of subtraction of 0 and 1 is A, B, S. The result of division of 0 and 1 is A, B, division, and the result of multiplication of A and B is M. So what we did, we took two variables, we passed it into a function, we calculated multiple different values and we returned them as a list. Those lists we caught it over here and we are displaying. So cell, just call run all. As you can see, the result of addition of 20 and 10 is 30, subtraction is 20, division is 3.0, multiplication is 300. So a function may not return any values. A function may return a single value. A function may return multiple values. Also, a function may also call another function. Let's take a simple cell, insert cell above. Okay, let's define one more function. Let's say diff. Okay, diff by 10. Whatever number we pass, let it divide that number by 10. Return num by 10. Let us call that function from here. That is A is equal to A is equal to diff by 10 A and B is equal to diff by 10b. Let's print. After division, value of 0 and 1 becomes 2 and 3 dot format a comma b. Let's take it as a1 and b1. ab is comma a1 comma b1 and a1 b1 a1 minus b1 a1 by b1 a1 by b1. So from one function we are calling one more function and we are returning the result. Now cell run all. What's the error? Cell so after division, value of 20 and 10 becomes 2.0 and 1.0. That means from here you are calling this function by name add. From add it is calling the function by name divided by. After division of a and b, these numbers are being divided by 10. So the value of a1 and b1 becomes a1 and b1 becomes 2.0 and 1.0 and the addition result is 3.0, subtraction result is 1.0, division result is 2.0 and multiplication result is 2.0. So in this way one function can call another function. Now sometimes it is also required to modify certain variable from multiple places. Let's create one function by name definition sample function. A function may not also have any parameter. Anything you declare before any function becomes a global variable. For example, tot is equal to 10 and all we are going to do is modify this value of tot. So tot is equal to 20. Let's call this function by saying print tot value before calling the function is equal to 0 dot format tot. So first we are printing the value of total, followed by we need to call this function. Let's say sample function. As you can see, we are not passing any variable, we are not taking any variable back. And then let's print the value after calling the function. After calling the function, cell run all. So as you can see, total should have been 20. So we can declare a variable global in Python with a keyword global. When you are declaring anything as global, you should not initialize it. At the top, you should declare that variable as global. Once the global variable is declared, you must initialize it. So let's say we have initialized this with the value 10. In the function also, you should declare a variable as global. So if you say global total, it is referring to this variable total over here. Okay. Now, at the time of the function, total value after calling the function is TOT. So at the beginning, the total value is 10. 10 is a global variable. You are calling a function by name sample function. So it is going inside sample function where total is a global variable. So it directly points towards this. You are changing the value to 20. When you change the value to 20, after printing, it is going to show the value as 20. Now what happens if after calling this, I just make a change in the value total and say TOT is equal to 40. Let's call the sample function again and let's print the value. Let's also print calling second time. Alright, so cell run all. You see, total value before calling the function is 10. Total value after calling the function is 20. Calling for the second time, total value after calling the function is 20. Now it should have been ideally 50, right? Because here I have made the value as I have made the value as 40. But however, within this context, total is not global, right? So if I make even this one as global, now so we have changed the sample functions output a bit. We are assigning total is equal to total into 2. So what happens is initially when you are calling, initially total value is assigned with 10. Okay, the total value is 10. So when we are trying to print the total value, it is going to print 10. Then we are calling sample function. Total is a global variable. The sample function is multiplying it with 2. Because it is multiplying it with 2, when I am trying to print this value again, it is going to print 20. Again, I am going to assign 40 to total. Because total is global, it is going to change the same variable itself. And then I am calling the sample function. In sample function, total is again a global variable which is again multiplied by 2. So after coming back, when I am trying to print that, it is printing 40 into 2, that is 80. So in this way, without passing any parameters and without passing any argument, we can pass values into the function by setting up a global variable, passing the value into the global variable and getting the value from the global variable. So a function may or may not accept any parameters. A function may or may not return anything. A function may return multiple values. Now let's take a new notebook. Okay, let's take a new notebook. Now in Python, there are two types of parameter passing. One is known as passing by value, one is known as passing by reference. Let's try to understand the meaning of it. We have just seen a global variable where if you make the changes from one function, it will be reflected in another function or outside, whatever it is. So let's define a function by name define my function. Okay, let's pass a variable a. Okay, let's say a is equal to a into 2, right? Let's take one more cell. Let's declare a is equal to 10. Let's call my function. Okay, so my function of a. Let's now try to print the value of a. Let's understand that we are passing this variable a into my function, but a becomes a local variable to the my function. Any change you make in a will be affected only within the scope of this function. As the function ends, the a value will be died. Here I am taking one more variable a, assigning it with 10. That 10 I am passing to the function. The function is not returning anything. A is not a global variable. So if I try to print the value of a, the a will be shown still as 10, right? So cell run all. You see, it is still 10. So it means that whatever variable you declare within the function will remain to be part of the function itself. Now you can test it with this also. Let's pass a variable b. Let's declare one more variable. Let's say a is equal to b, and then a is equal to a into 2. Irrespective of how you are using, whether it is parameter or any other variable declared within the function, this will be restricted to the scope of the function itself. So cell run all, a is still remain to be 10. That will not be the case if you make a as global. So if you make a as global, even within a function, whatever value of a you are taking over here, this also will become automatically global. So this value is going to change over here. Let's say a is equal to a into 5. Cell okay. So if you declare anything as global within a function, that becomes accessible by entire Python script. If you don't declare anything as global, that becomes a local variable and its scope ends. Again, when I remove the keyword global and if I execute again, it's going to show only 10 because a is restricted to the scope of this function. Here a is restricted to this particular scope. So irrespective of the Python editor that you type, even if you do the same thing on drupal.it, it's going to give you the same result. Let's take this and let's take a simple Python script. Let's say this is a simple Python script. So this logic has nothing to do with whether you use a notebook or an entire script. This is going to remain to be same for every case. So the result it is showing is 10. Here if I make a as global, the result is going to be 50. So irrespective of the type of the editor you choose to write your code, your logic will remain same. If you declare anything as global within a function, that value becomes global throughout the Python script. If you don't use global, that variable will be restricted within the function. So we now know that if I pass a value of a and again print it, whatever changes you make within the function is not going to be reflected. However, if the function returns that same variable and if you catch it in this variable, then again you will be able to get the new result because ultimately this is returning the value and it is holding the value. This kind of function calling is called calling by value because whenever we are writing my function a, it is passing the value of a which is getting set in this variable b B is assigned to the variable A is multiplied by 5, it is returning the value of A, which has been caught by one more variable A over here, and we are displaying. So this is known as passing by value. There is one more data type in Python which is called list. Now let's say how the list works. If you recall our first class, we can declare a list simply by in this fashion. Let's give this list as input to this function, okay, and let pass one number. Every time you are calling my function, let's append the number to the list, okay. For I in range 0, 5, let's just call this function my function list comma I, and let's print list. Now let's see what we are doing is we are declaring an argument in the function my function called list. We have a local variable by name list. Now we know that this list and this list are the local variable with corresponding to this. Now list is initially assigned with 1, 2, 3, 4. Here I am calling the function my function by passing this local value list and a variable I. Here in its local context, the list is added with the number. I am coming back and printing, right? Now you see I have not written the list from here. I have not taken, so I am not writing list is equal to my function of list. So irrespective of the number of times I called, list value should be printed as 1, 2, 3, 4, just like in previous case when we removed the global keyword, A value was 10, right? However, if you run this, you'll see the value is 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Which means what? Whenever you declare anything as list, that kind of variable is known as reference variable, which means that whenever you pass list to a function, you are not passing the value of the list. Rather, you are passing the memory address of the list. Because you are passing the memory address of the list over here, its local address is also pointing to the same memory address. Whatever changes you make over here is getting reflected to the list only. Let's understand this phenomenon by a simple notepad. So we have something called a function, let's say my function. We have something called a my function. Okay, and we have the script. Here I am declaring one list. So what happens is in your memory, let's assume that this is RAM. Somewhere the list is getting created. Say list. Let's say its address is F21. Okay. So whenever you are mentioning list, it is actually associated with the value F21, where we have the number 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you are passing list to this function. When you are passing the list, this is creating a local copy by name list. However, in the list, what you are passing actually the address, that is F21. So this list is also pointing towards which address? F21. Now you are appending list dot append 4. Now because you are appending 4, because list is pointing towards same memory location, the 4 gets and sits over here. This is a local copy, but here also you are modifying the same address. Now here when you are trying to print list, you are actually passing the address of the list rather than the value. The address is F21. Because the address is F21 and it has got already one more element, this is going to print all the elements. So this is also known as calling by reference. So you can call a function by passing the value or declare something as list and pass by reference. In such cases also, you can prefer to return list. Even if you do so, there won't be any effect in the output because by default it's a reference type. So irrespective of whether you return it or don't return it, the value is going to be remain to be same. Now if you change the list over here to a blank list and 0, next time its value is, there is 0 in the list. You are passing the list and putting 1. So next time it is returning 0, 1. Next time 0 and 1 is already there in the list. So irrespective of whether you return it or you don't return it, this is returning the reference, that is memory address, and sorry, this is passing the reference. That means this is a memory address. Now let's make a let's make a simple change. Let's say A and B. Let us do a simple division function, and let's say D is equal to A divided by B, return D, and let's say D is equal to my function 12,6 print D, cell, run all. The result is 20. What if I put a 0 here? Obviously this is a divided by 0 exception. Where the exception has been raised? Over here the exception has been raised. So how you are going to catch this? See, D is equal to my function 12, 0. So which area the exception is happening? The exception is happening over here. So what you can do is, you can put them in try and except some problem. So let's print this now. Cell problem division by 0 error. So whenever a function may have a exception probability, while calling the function you can put them in try and catch. What if you, instead of putting try and catch here, put the try and catch inside the function? the try is already inside the function. The try is already inside the function. And here, because I have removed the exception, there should not be any indent here. Cell run all. So you can even prefer to choose the exception. Try to understand what is happening over here. The best thing is that this function is now returning two different type of data. If the result is successful, it's going to return the value, else it is going to return the exception which you are printing over here. See, I have not used any try and catch over in this context. So if the performance was successful, it will return the value. If it is unsuccessful, it is going to return the exception. So from a function you can return different type of data, and Python is going to handle that. That's the beauty of the Python. So cell run all. Now the result is 2.0. If at all it generates an error, that error gets caught over here, and instead of returning D, it returns the exception. In Java and .NET, you need to declare a separate exception handling from the function to the calling part, but Python does it automatically. So as a designer, you can choose to handle the exception within the function, or you can choose to handle the exception where you are calling the function. Both thing is allowed by the